Hello, Painful Maths here. My next set of videos are going to be an expansion on my last one. The last one was an overview of my theory on why intelligent people believe in religion, but it didn't go into depth on anything. This will probably be the vaguest of them all. If I were developing a true epistemological foundation, I'd be more careful and rigorous, but the point of this series is to merely come up with why intelligent people are still religious. So this video is sort of a foundation for the whole theory. How do we come to know anything? First off, we need a definition. What does it mean to know something? And I can't really tell you that explicitly, but I can say what it doesn't mean. Knowing something does not mean that you have 100% certainty. Extreme skeptics will say that we can't ever know anything. How can we know that we aren't just brains floating in a vat or something? But these people are using an unreasonable definition of what it means to know something. Anyone, when pressed hard enough, will admit that even the simplest things they don't really know under this definition of 100% certainty. So we're going to use more of a common language approach. We know things that we can be reasonably certain about. If I drop a ball, then it will fall to the ground. I'm going to ignore Hume's problem of induction and all sorts of philosophical debates about this definition that will lead us too far astray, but basically we know something when we have two pieces of information. One, a belief about the world, and two, a way of knowing that this belief actually matches reality and not just our perception of reality. The book On Being Certain by Robert Burton is what inspired me to make my previous video. In it, he basically describes how many people feel certain about things that are just patently false. The conclusion he comes to is that we can't ever really know anything with reasonable certainty. We just have too many cognitive mechanisms that skew our perceptions of reality. Now, I have to wholeheartedly disagree with him here. The whole point of knowing that we have these biases helps us to overcome them. This is how we come to know things. For instance, I'm a graduate student in math right now. And a very common scene that happens is some grad student will be all excited and say, "Did you know such and such?" And the person he's talking to will then say, "No, that's absurd. I definitely don't believe that at all. It just does not seem true." Now, who's right? Luckily for us in math, there's an easy way to tell. The first student goes to a chalkboard and writes out a rigorous logical proof of the statement, and one of two things will happen. He'll either have a mistake and the person that doubted can point it out and it turns out that the statement was not true after all, or the proof is correct and then everyone is convinced. Here's the main point. It is common to have gut instincts about things in math, but in order to know if it's true, one also always has to come back and test it against reality by coming up with a proof of the statement. This only works because a proof is something that's outside of the influence of cognitive biases. It's a rigorous logical procedure. When we aren't talking about pure math, there is another way to do this. It's known as the scientific method. We know we skew our results in science due to cognitive bias, so this is why scientific results are not considered true until a lot has been done to ensure as little bias as possible has happened. The result has to be repeatable in any place by any person, and indeed it must be done before the result is accepted. The results have to be reviewed by peers who analyze the methods for bias and skewing, and it will not be published if any are found. Control groups, placebos, double-blind setups, and all sorts of other techniques have been developed and are used to catch when the effects are the results of something else. So, just to cut to the chase, what I'm saying is not that science is infallible, but a lot of precautions are in place to try to prevent skewed results due to bias. And when something goes unnoticed, it is usually caught and eventually the error is admitted and changed. For this reason, we can say that we know established scientific facts to be true, according to my definition of what it means to know something. There is a reason you can watch this video on your computer. We know how electricity works. It's not just blind faith that it works a certain way. Science can even discover, using this method, things about the world which seem wildly unintuitive. If they tried to figure these things out without the scientific method, they would never, ever, ever have figured them out. there are things out there that are just that bizarre. For instance, if you want an example, look up the EPR paradox. So people basically believed, just look it up. I'm not saying that everything we come to believe has been subjected to the scientific method before accepting it, but I am saying that there's a way to come to know things about the world, and it requires effort. We have to become aware of our biases and come up with ways of seeing if our beliefs match reality that gets around most of these biases before saying that we know the belief to be true. So I hope this clarifies the starting point for this series. Thank you for watching.